You're obviously skinned. Accused me of doing that. Oh, great attitude. Yeah. Especially after you mentioned, yeah, 20 years. Yeah. We had that big super the other day. But it seems to be holding up. We have a long station. The doors are made sliding. That's what I got. And then you pin it. Yeah, Klaus was in the station. And I told him, I used to have one, but it was a two-door. The big six. He used to park out the car into the parking lot. And I did too, because I didn't want to get my horse. You know, I don't have the mirror. Yeah. And I would see him. That's why he was all that he did, because I would see him for a long time walking out the car. Sometimes I didn't know.
Okay, so I think we can get started. So my name is Gopal Gupta, I'm a professor of computer science here. It's great to see many of the familiar.
Yeah, that was
great to see. You can hear me. So my name is Gopal Gupta, I'm a professor of computer science here. So I want to first of all welcome all of you. It's we're here to get together for this very solemn occasion for remembering Professor Klaus Truemper, longtime member of this department, might have been the longest serving, I don't know. So he probably joined, I think he joined 70s. Professor Chandra will know better. So we're here to celebrate his life. He was a wonderful and beloved colleague, and he's sorely missed, of course. So I met him when I came here in 2000. And as soon as I come in, I think within a very short time, I had a chance to meet him. And I remember being in his office. The first conversation I had with him was he explained how he had arranged his office optimally so that he could actually squeeze out some small things like a conference room. So he was the person who worked in optimization, AI, and all kinds of things. So the very kind soul, and of course a great scholar. And he also actually used to teach logic, which is dear to my heart. In fact, I inherited his course on computational logic, which runs even today, which I'm teaching this semester. So he founded the course, I don't know when, it was in the catalog, then he gave it up for whatever reason, his interest changed. And so I got it. So I didn't have to do all the work that you have to do to get the course on the catalog. So he, of course, was extremely active, and it is very sad that he was unfortunately this plane crash. Otherwise, he was so active that easily he would have crossed 100, I think. And I used to meet him actually every once in a while for lunch. We had mutual interest, of course, in AI, and we were both on the reasoning side, and we see all these things going on about large language models and which are all basically statistical, and how the kind of claims people are making. So we used to get together every once in a while and talk about why logic is very important as well, and reasoning is very important as well. So he had, of course, very bright smile, which will be sorely missed. He had curiosity that was infectious, and actually his great quality was that he would speak the hard truth. So he would ask hard questions, and he was never afraid of saying things that were, of course, true, but maybe unpleasant. So I really admired this great quality in him, that he would really ask tough questions. So I would like to introduce the family of Professor Klaus Truemper, who are here. The first one is, so maybe everyone should rise. So Ute Truemper, please give her. And then daughter of Klaus, Ingrid. And Ingrid actually was in my programming languages class 2001, 2002. long time ago. And then Martin Truemper. So yeah, he's. So next we'll have a moment of silence for remembering Professor Truemper. So maybe everyone can rise again. Moment of silence. So, introduce Professor overview as words go on there. So, Professor, over to you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gopal. And this is my deepest thanks to all of you for coming here today. So nice to see the family. I knew Ute from before, we just chatting about it, but nice to also meet Klaus' daughter and Klaus' son. And also thank you to the school representatives that came here. I seen Porash, Valsara, Vaizin earlier today here. I knew Klaus since I joined UT Dallas. So all my time at UT Dallas, almost 26 years now, I knew Klaus. So he was actually assigned as my faculty mentor when I joined. And he was very direct and he was very clear. We didn't have to talk much about what's gonna help me to be successful in my academic career. Probably we talk about it twice. But he was clear and concise. It was like a recipe for a good German bread. You have to do this and that and that and that, and then you put it in the oven and you are gonna get out an amazing looking, amazing tasting bread every single time. You only have to follow the recipe. And that's what I did. I tried to follow it close enough and it worked out for me. I got promoted to associate professor, I got promoted to full professor, and I say thank you, Klaus, for your amazing advice. What I'm doing now, I'm passing that advice, slightly modified for the 25 years as I'm passing them, or give or take 20 some years, and I'm passing it to our junior faculty, which we hire a lot. And I'm glad to say also that some of them know Klaus because he was an emeritus faculty after he retired, and he was actively an active participant in the life of the department. In fact, one of the things that I like most about Klaus was that he was very genuine. I knew precisely what he's thinking about an issue. I knew precisely what he's standing on an issue. So I wish that would happen every single time. He was brief and he was clear, and that was the gem. Now, the hardest thing for me in my relation with Klaus, I have to say it, was to say no to him. He was my faculty mentor, and then, he was so open and so honest, and when I became department head, most of the times we were on the same page, but he would come many times to my office and let's discuss this and let's discuss that, and a couple I had to say no. He's saying things one way and I'm saying things a different way. Say, Klaus, this time it's a no, and I knew he was going to be upset, but I will tell you this. He took no with an amazing grace. If you know Klaus, you will understand that about him. And he will say something like this. Say, I know both of us want the best for the department. We might see it different ways. Now, I know also that the department head has to make the decision. And you make the decision, and I'm going to support you in whichever way I feel best to get things done, whatever decision you make. And now, that sounds like something you see now, right, on TV, supporting each other. So, but that's how he was. We are not on the same page, but you are making the decision, and then I'm going to support you because I know that both of us want the best for the department. That's how I remember Klaus. Now, Klaus also like Gopal said, to ask very hard questions and solve very hard problems. And doing things that he was passionate about, being them academic or non-academic. For that reason, as you know, he retired in his early 60s. So I'm going to retire because I want to investigate this type of problems that maybe pertain to the brain. It's not AI anymore, but other things. And I want to focus my energy on that, and I want to answer these abstract questions, and I want to write books, and I need time to write books. And I tell you, it is worth your time reading those books. I mean, I did not read them all, I have to say, but I did read 3 of them. They are amazing books. The depth of inquiry in those books is outstanding. Being in the invention of logarithms, going back to, I know, 300, 400 years ago, how the logarithms were first invented, to the creation of mathematics, which follows that, to artificial intelligence, because he had a book on artificial intelligence, and eventually to the subconscious blunders that eventually look to the brain, because he says that's the most important thing. Last year, I somehow found time to read 2 recent books focused on AI, artificial intelligence. It just happens that those 2 books were authored by the director of the MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. I'm going to say this. Your time would be much better spent if you went and read Klaus' books. Klaus was a pioneer of AI, and he remained one to the end. So go and read his books. And with that, I'm going to end. I also want to acknowledge Dean Adams, because I didn't see Dean Adams. And thank you very much, Dean Adams, for being present here. And my colleague department head, Dinesh Bhatia, who is also here. He's going to talk later. And I'm going to pass the microphone now to Professor Izao. Some of you know, some of you not. He was one of the earliest PhD students of Klaus, and they had a very close relationship. So I'm really glad that he's here now with us, a professor of instruction, and he's gonna talk a little bit more about Klaus himself.
Thank you very much, Ovidio. Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Izao, and as Ovidio mentioned that I was a Klaus PhD student all the way back to the 1990s, early 1990s. So it's almost over 35 years ago. Yeah, I came here to take this term 1991, and has been in Richardson area for 35 years, more than half Texan right now. All right, so today, we gather with both gratitude and the sadness to honor Professor Klaus Truemper. And his work shaped our department in lasting ways. But even more, and his kindness, his humility, and also his quiet generosity, and shaped the people who had the privilege of knowing him. As we remember him, and I'd like to offer a few words that reflect the spirit of the person and behind the accomplishments you will hear and in this very brief bio. So Professor Truemper joined the UT Dallas in 1973 and also dedicated decades into teaching, research, and mentorship. Trained in the operational research and mathematics, and he later became a pioneer in artificial intelligence, exploring logic-based intelligence systems, and in his later years, and the connections between AI, human cognition, and also philosophy. His work consistently sought not just to advance technology, but to understand why certain ideas succeed and others fail. As Ovidio also mentioned, that he authored influential books and the numerous scholarly works, and earning the respect of colleagues and also students alike. Beyond his academic accomplishments, he was known for his independent thinking, wide range of interests, and also the passion for applying the rigorous reasoning to real-world problems. So Professor Truemper and leaves behind a legacy of scholarship, integrity, and also inspiration. His contributions to the university and to the broader intellectual community and will continue to shape minds of generations to come. So right now, we'd like to show a brief video that celebrates Klaus' life from the beginning and to end. It is the personal look at the moments, people, and experience that shape him.
Not yet, yeah, not yet.
We are going to repeat this video when we move to the reception area. So there will be continuous playing this video. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to invite the family members to make some remarks. So I'm trying to see the Ingrid Truemper, the daughter of Professor Truemper, and also the Martin Truemper and the son of Klaus Truemper. Please help me to welcome them to the stage.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here to honor our dad. We'd also like to thank UTD for putting on this event, and especially Yi and Michelle for their support. Our family has a long history with UTD, beginning in 1973, when my dad started here as a professor of operations research. My mom, Ute, got her bachelor's of computer science here in 1990. And in 2002, I received a master's of computer science from UTD. At UTD, my dad was a talented teacher known for his ability to explain complex ideas in an accessible way. He was a great teacher outside the classroom too, so I'd like to share some of the lessons that he taught us. Here's my dad as a young boy. I think you can already see his irreverent sense of humor. One of the lessons my dad taught us was how to be resilient and achieve your goals despite seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Klaus was born in the middle of World War II in Berlin. His first experiences as a baby were of everyone around him trying to survive the bombing of the city. In 1946, when he was just still a toddler, his family fled to West Germany in a horse and wagon to escape the Soviet communist rule of East Germany. Those post-war years were very tough. Klaus and his two brothers were hungry most of the time, and they wore tattered clothes. In summer, they went barefoot to save their shoes for winter time. This is a famous wartime photo of Siegburg, 1945. And Siegburg is the town near Cologne that my dad's family was from and where they fled from Berlin. On the right of the picture, you can see the ruins of the department store that had belonged to my dad's family. And my dad's mom, our grandmother, Maria, was born there on the right on the top floor. Now, believe it or not, these ruins became a dangerous but exciting playground for my dad and his brothers. And they loved to play in the bombed out houses. Here are my dad and his brothers. He's the little guy on the left. Since the three boys had almost no toys, their mom decided not to restrict them from playing wild games, even inside the apartment. One day, the boys decided to have a shooting competition with bows and arrows. They set up papier-mâché Easter bunnies on the piano, which was a family heirloom, by the way, and they shot at the bunnies for target practice. The problem was, most of the time, they missed. Each of these misses gouged a hole in the wall. After a while, a pattern resembling a shotgun blast emerged. My grandmother, who was a very patient woman, said nothing about this when she came back to the apartment. My dad and his brothers attended a highly respected humanistic gymnasium in Cologne that had been founded back in 1450. Now, a humanistic gymnasium in Germany is a college prep school that's focused on classical education like Greek and Latin. That school's most famous alumnus was Georg Ohm, the physicist. However, when my dad was 15, his dad became very ill, and he and his brothers left high school in order to apprentice as mechanics to help support the family. Now, in post-World War II Germany, apprentices were pretty much the lowest rung on the totem pole. And my dad and his brothers earned the grand sum of 6 cents an hour, or $10 a month, which my grandmother used to feed the family. Later in life, Klaus used the skills he learned as a mechanic over and over, repairing our family cars and even building his own airplane. He developed a deep respect and appreciation for those who work with their hands and in the skilled trades. Later, my dad was able to earn a degree in industrial engineering, and upon graduation decided to come to the US to gain work experience. In 1965, my dad flew to New York City and boarded a Greyhound bus for a very long ride to St. Louis, Missouri. Despite having had years and years of English classes, he was unable to remember any terms for food except scrambled eggs and toast. So he ordered that at every stop. He later commented it was amazing he still liked eggs. Despite my dad's early hardships, he earned master's and doctorate degrees in the US and was a professor of operations research and then computer science here at UTD for 52 years. During his career, he achieved such honors as being invited to the University of Waterloo in Canada for a year's sabbatical to work with renowned colleagues in his field, and winning a Humboldt Research Award, enabling him to write his first book on matron theory.
Another important lesson my father taught us is the value of family. In 1970, Klaus married our mom, Ute, and my sister and I came along a few years later. And just last year, our parents celebrated their 55th wedding anniversary. Our parents always valued family time and made sure Ingrid and I learned German and regularly visited relatives in Germany and in the US. Being outdoors in nature was always a priority. Our family summers were spent on long road trips, camping and hiking, discovering the natural beauty of America, Canada. And here in this picture, we were hiking in the Canadian Rockies. But even after he was no longer giving formal classes at UTD, Klaus continued to teach and help others. Just last year, he helped a woman who was stranded with a friend at the bottom of a very difficult trail in the Grand Canyon. And you can see in this photo here just how steep that trail was. He met this woman who was too exhausted to go on and in a state of panic, more than a mile from the rim with another 1,000 feet of elevation gain to go. Her hiking group had continued on without her, except for one other friend. No one had known how to help her make it back up to the rim. My dad talked with her, calmed her down, and taught her how to slow her breathing and synchronize it with her steps. He coached her on how to deal with her panic and her negative thoughts. And after taking many breaks, the three of them did eventually make it up back to the top. And when they arrived, the entire hiking group broke out into spontaneous applause and invited my dad for ice cream. The woman he helped is the one right to the right of him in this picture in the white and blue shirt. And later she sent him an email thanking him over and over for his kindness, advice, and encouragement. Klaus also showed us how to live a life filled with purpose and a love of learning. Many years ago, a mathematician had asked my dad what his profession was. He replied, "I have no idea. I just like to solve problems." This baffled the poor mathematician, of course, but it was a good description of my dad. He just loved to solve problems and to help people. Even after he became professor emeritus, he refused to call himself retired and had no intention of slowing down. But when inevitably asked about retirement, he would answer quite earnestly, "Let me tell you about the day I retire. I get up in the morning, as usual, eat breakfast, do the crossword with my wife, go to my study and work on a book or some other project, drive to the pool, swim my daily laps, come home, eat a healthy lunch, and in the afternoon when I'm tired, I lie down for a short nap and don't wake up. He had no intention of ever slowing down. In his final years, Klaus kept himself busier than ever with diverse projects and interests. He was a true Renaissance man. He loved art, visiting museums, and even tried his own hand painting the wildflowers he loved so much. And in addition to the 3 textbooks he wrote as professor, Klaus published 8 books on such subjects as brain science, Wittgenstein's philosophy, and AI. His 9th book was almost complete at the time of his death and will be published later this year. He also found the time to maintain 5 blogs on such diverse topics as the technical points of flying and the recipe for his famous sourdough bread. When my parents came to the US, my dad was horrified at the squishy American bread available in grocery stores. He called it kaugummi-brot, chewing gum bread. At the time, it was not possible to get real German bread, so of course, he just started baking it himself. And for decades, he supplied family and friends with his famous blackened sourdough rye breads. And now Mom has taken on the role as family baker, using the very recipe that he documented on his blog. Swimming was also hugely important for my dad, and he made many good friends at the pool, as you do. He swam every day and missed it sorely anytime it wasn't possible. But perhaps his biggest passion was flying. He took his first lesson in 1979 and was hooked immediately on takeoff. Of course, not satisfied with the certified planes available for purchase, he and good friend and expert builder Mel Asbury built the plane that he was to fly for the next 30 years. He continuously improved it, modified it, and customized it until it was just perfect for his mission. And he would look forward to warmer weather each year when he could fly it again. Being skilled in house and auto repair, Klaus flew his plane to help family and friends with their own do-it-yourself projects. And here he is patching the roof at Ingrid's house in New Mexico. But flying also allowed him to pursue his love of hiking and experiencing nature. The Grand Canyon and Grand Teton National Parks were 2 of his favorite destinations. He loved photographing the wildflowers he found on his hikes and learning their names. And at 83, he still undertook challenging hikes, such as this 10-mile trek with a 3,000-foot elevation gain to magnificent Amphitheater Lake in Grand Teton. Klaus lived his life to the fullest, right until his last day. His generosity and zest for life, they continue to inspire us, and he will live forever in our hearts and minds. Thank you.
All right, so next item on the agenda is live tribute. And for anyone, because I believe there will be the long line, and so because of time limits, so everyone's control the tributes in 60 seconds. 1 minute. All right, so anyone wanted to start talking, and then you can line up over there, and the microphone is there. So when you get to speak, and don't speak to the screen, turn around and speak to the audience, because our session is also the live stream broadcasting right now. Okay, all right, let's get started.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'll try to shorten my remarks because I didn't know about the 60-second rule. If I go a little bit over, please forgive me. But I came here in 2008, and shortly after that, Klaus came to my office. He only had one request: could he retain access to this computer, because he was still productive, writing books and so on. I had no idea what a profound scholar he was at that time. And, most of my degrees were in mathematics, and I think I know a little bit of mathematics. But I brought one of his books here. This book that he wrote really changed my thinking about mathematics. Not because it's well written, it is, the prose is excellent. Not because of the history, I know the history, but he made such deep connections between different areas of mathematics and really changed the way I think about mathematics. So I have two books on my bedstand next to my bed. One is Bill Bryson's A Short History of Nearly Everything, and the other one is Klaus Truemper's book on mathematics. And I read a few pages or a chapter before I go to bed, before I go to sleep. And then when I finish the books, I go back and start over and read it again. So it's quite amazing. I want to show you this book, not because it's mine, it is my book, but because this is also, I think, a legacy of Klaus. I wanted to turn my notes for my course on complex networks into a little book for the students, and I was really not thrilled about going back to a major publisher like John Wiley. So Klaus encouraged me to publish this on Amazon, and he gave me, he wrote a handout for me. He came to my office, walked me through how to do this, gave me all his software, and so this book really has the same look and feel as Klaus's book, and I really think it's his legacy, part of his legacy. And we know that whenever he would come up with a book, he would send us email and he would say, encourage us to publish books for the students. He had passion for the students. Because I published myself, I set the price of this book at $12 instead of the usual $112 that our students have to pay. And if any of you want to follow Klaus's advice and wish and publish a book on Amazon, I'll give you all the knowledge he gave me, his handout, his software, and help you write a book. I know that would make him so happy. So thank you very much.
My name is Hal Sudborough. I'm an emeritus professor of computer science. And I have just a few remarks to make. Taking out a piece of paper, I'm sure frightens you, but it's really not that long. So, Klaus was a good man. And what do I mean by that? To say he was a good man. People say he's a good man when they mean that he's very productive at work. He works hard and is productive. Other people say he's a good man to someone when he's good with his family, his friends, his community, his country. And thirdly, people might say the opposite of being a bad man. A good man is somebody that follows the rules and the law. Klaus was all three of those. Klaus was a good man in all those ways. He wrote books that are very highly thought of. He produced the Leibniz system, which is highly regarded and often used. He gave lectures in Europe and in the United States about his ideas. He helped our department in many ways. He was like an elder statesman, an advocate, looking after faculty and students. He felt we should all be treated better. I think it would probably be fair to say that everyone in this room has been helped by Klaus in some way. He believed in people and did his best to help them. He was a good man. I'd like to close my remarks with a poem. I'm not a poet. This is a poem written by the famous Scottish poet Robert Burns. It's entitled Epitaph on My Own Friend. Maybe you know it already. An honest man, yon lies at rest, and ere God with his image blessed. The friend of man, the friend of truth, the friend of age and guide of youth. Few hearts like his with virtue armed, few heads with knowledge so informed. If there is another world, he lives in bliss. If there is none, he made the best of this. Thank you.
My name is Dinesh Bhatia. So I knew Professor Truemper in a slightly different way. Fall of 1987, I had joined the PhD program, and there was a required course, CS 6381 Combinatorics in Computer Science. He was my professor. In the very first class, he started talking about graphs, connectivity, and if anyone has ever seen him lecturing, he was a man of words. He will not write too many things on the board. And by the time he finished the class, less than half of the board had some drawings. And when it finished, I said, I like this professor. No more big notes, but this was a fun class. Professor Truemper and I kept interacting. I took his artificial intelligence course. His views on artificial intelligence from then, 1987 to now, had almost drastically, I would say, 180 degree completely flipped. I have taken some of his advanced courses, and during those courses, he will throw papers from his stint at Waterloo, Professor Pullivan, Jack Edmonds, and after that, he'll come back and ask, Dinesh, so what did you think of those papers? And those were hard papers to read. And I will give my honest opinion, very difficult to read. But he was always trying to push a limit of learning. For those of you who have seen his papers, these were like, each paper used to be good, about 18, 20 pages. I don't know if it's a true fact, but I've heard the editors used to send it back and say, split it into 2 papers. So he actually has paper part 1 and part 2. But during those days, his papers, he used to print them on a dot matrix printer. And he used to use, so this is my clear memory, he used to use a font very similar to a garment font, big font. So he will call me and says that I have a paper and I can give you early draft if you want to read. And I'll go there and he'll start the printer, and this printer will go on for good about 45 minutes because he has to print the whole paper. And I had some of the most wonderful conversations with him. I left and I came back. I continued to interact with him. My last email exchange with him, I was just looking on my phone, was on May 14th, 2025. This is in context of some of the discussions we used to have with respect to AI. And my last sit down and long interaction was in Mark, your office, when he gave the whole tutorial on how to print or how to publish books using Amazon. I can only say that an amazing person, amazing human being, and an amazing mind. And he definitely shaped for a lot of things that I think. Thank you so much.
Folks, I'm going to use the podium over here. I wasn't aware that we had a 60-second limit on our speeches, on our talks today. So I prepared something that's quite a bit longer than 60 seconds, but I will try and truncate it. There are a lot of computer scientists around here. And so I decided that my main contribution to Klaus's memorial would be to talk about his flying. Because you see, I'm a pilot as well. I got my license when I started flying with my dad when I was 13. And I got my license when I was 18 and flew up until 2007. So I had 39 years of flying experience. Klaus had 45. Okay, didn't quite match him, but I got up there. Now, when pilots get together, they talk about stories that you can't hear in any other way. For example, you guys probably know, I'm sure you've heard plenty. I'll give you just two quick from mine, real quick, from my experience. One time I was flying back from Austin by myself and I was approaching Dallas. Okay, now I didn't want to fly right over Dallas because that would take me over Love Field and Redbird Airport. So I'm going to make a right-hand turn, go around Dallas to the right, and then back to the left to get to Addison. Well, there was a front coming in. Wasn't a factor. I'd already talked to flight service, but it was pushing a lot of moisture in the air. So I make my right-hand turn, and boom, right there in front of me is a 360-degree rainbow. It was beautiful, and of course that was before the age of cell phones, so I had no way of capturing it, but it was gorgeous. And another quick experience I had one time I was flying ultralights in California, and these are little bitty planes. These are, they have a lawn chair for a seat, no fuselage, no windshield. And I was flying over the mountains, sitting around LA, and I had an engine failure. Okay, so I found, fortunately, a little meadow and landed the plane. But these are the kinds of experiences that pilots have. You get two pilots together, they'll talk about this kind of stuff for 3 hours. Okay, now Klaus was different. He not only did his, I'm going to try and just summarize what I have written here because I wasn't aware of the time limit. As we all know, Klaus went on extraordinary adventures in this airplane. And he would take it up into Colorado and other places that many pilots would hesitate to go. I mean, you fly these little airplanes in the mountains, you need to think about it. But what I really liked about it is not only did he take these adventures, he wrote a book. One of those books that was listed was this one right here. Lessons I Learned from Piloting for 45 Years. And guys, this book is very, very interesting, okay? One thing you learn when you read it, and it has a lot to do with Klaus's personality, as everybody who knew him knows, he was a teacher through and through. So he would go on these trips, and every little thing that happened that might be a problem, he would write it down, analyze it, figure out what the solution or the better way of handling it was, and then use that knowledge going forward. So if you read this book, the chapters are divided into different problems. Let me see if I can orient myself. Chapters are organized around problems like thunderstorms, fuel issues, traffic patterns, how to handle emergencies, lots of things that we never deal with in our cars, okay? And he would turn them into lessons and have little knowledge at the end of each chapter. It was really a great book. Now, another thing that impressed me while I was reading this book was his attention to detail. Absolutely. This was alluded to, I think, by some comments that a video may have made. His attention to detail. He was a careful pilot. He knew every system in his plane. He took care of it, okay? The whole book is an expression of his powerful desire to teach others about what he had learned. And folks, didn't we see that in our understanding of him here? He would go on these trips, and what would he do when he got back? Put out an email stream on the faculty mailing list with links to pictures and other things that he had generated. He was either flying or he was teaching, and oftentimes he was doing both, okay? Now, Klaus kept his airplane at a local airport called Aero Country. Okay, it's up by McKinney. It's a small airport, not controlled. It's what pilots call an uncontrolled airport, which means it doesn't have a control tower. So you follow certain procedures when you're coming in to land or take off, and that's how safety is maintained. Now, I would go up to Aero Country because it just so happened that one of my brothers, Bob, Robert Stevens, was a pilot as well, and he kept his airplanes up there. Now, I went down the renting route. After, we all flew with my dad in his airplane when we were growing up. But when my dad sold his airplane, I started renting airplanes out of Addison. And so renting 172s and DA-20 Katanas and things like that. Bob would buy his airplanes, and so he kept them in a hangar out at Aero Country. Now, the reason why this is interesting is because his hangar was not too far from Klaus's. It was easily within walking distance of Klaus's hangar. So my brother and Klaus would periodically interact out there. I introduced them, they knew who each other was. Klaus knew Bob was my brother, Bob knew Klaus was who he was, okay? Now, I would frequently go out to Aero Country. I would either fly out there, if Bob and I were gonna fly together, sometimes we'd do formation flying somewhere, or I'd drive out there if I was going to just fly with him, with Bob. So I knew Klaus, I'd seen his airplane, visited him at his hangar a couple of times, okay? One day I asked Klaus to take me for a ride. And I was surprised because he refused to do it. And you know what his reason for that was? He said, "Charles, you're too big." I said, yeah. That's what he said. And I never found out whether he was concerned about my height or my weight. It was one or the other. Okay. So anyway, I've got a lot of stuff here about some stuff that I guess we don't have time to get into. We'll share an anecdote with you all, and I know I'm going to get some reactions from a lot of you folks, but it's a fun anecdote with Klaus, okay? Klaus and I had, we would talk and we shared about flying, and there were some other things. But we had a couple of interactions on politics, okay? Now I won't dwell on it, we won't get into politics. But Klaus made me a bet. He said, and this was after the election, but before the inauguration. He said, "Charles, I bet you a lunch at Jason's Deli that Trump is not going to be able to solve the Ukraine war by June 30th, 2026. Okay? I took the bet. I took the bet. So here it comes, it's not going to happen. We're getting closer to June 30th, and it's obvious that we're not going to get done with the Ukraine war. So I got a surprise call from my brother, and he is laughing his head off. Klaus had stopped him at the airport and said, "It was like shooting fish in a barrel," referring to our bet. Okay, this is straight from my brother. I didn't hear Klaus saying this, but this is straight from my brother. So anyway, I realized that my brother was quite amused that I lost that bet. So anyway, I realized I was going to have to acknowledge to Klaus that I had lost the bet and say, when do you want to go eat lunch? On me, because I lost the bet. So I sent him an email that had 2 lines. I said, "Klaus, you've successfully shot a fish in a barrel. When do you want to go eat lunch?" Okay. And he came back and said, "Well, I'm going on a trip, one of my flying trips, and we'll get together and eat lunch as soon as I get back." So we were scheduled to eat lunch perhaps the week after he was scheduled to get back. So, I wanted to make some comments about, I'm a pilot, and I couldn't help thinking about this. What I heard about what happened to Klaus is that his airplane descended under power, hit the ground, and dug a long furrow in the ground. That's what I was told. Now, I just want to make the comment that a light airplane like that, assuming it's got enough airspeed, you can avoid the ground by a simple back pressure on the stick. Would have taken nothing to avoid the ground. And of course, Klaus would have done that if he had been awake. So my opinion is, I don't know, that it was a medical issue and not a mechanical issue. That's my judgment on it, in the absence of further facts, unless you guys have anything else to say about it. Okay, that's the only thing that made sense to me. Okay. Given that, I want to make my final comment and say, I wish I had been there with him, assuming it was a medical issue. because I have flown and landed planes just like his hundreds of times. I could have landed that plane and got in the healthy meter. So I've thought about it many times, I wish I'd been there with him. In conclusion, I want to thank Klaus for his many contributions to our lives, his teachings, his writings, his many books, his flying. These are only a small fraction of what he gave to each of us by his presence, but they are important contributions. Thank you, Klaus, for sharing your life with us and for your many contributions. You will be missed. Godspeed. I guess I went over 60, but
Hello. Anyway, my name is Michelle, and Ingrid and I have been friends since we were 14. So we met in high school, in Clark High School. So my teenagers, I was always over there. But over the following years, I stayed here and I swim. Actually, I swim a lot. And my kids also would take swimming lessons. So I would see Klaus often in the pool. When my kids were taking swimming lessons, I would see him, and then later on, and over all these years, I would see him every weekend, honestly, because I swim every weekend, and I would always see him at the pool. We'd always swim at the same time. And I also went to UTD, and I took classes in this building. So when I was in college, I would actually go by his office on the way to my class and see him, because I just thought it was so cool that I knew one of the professors in a way other than being a professor. Like, I was like, oh, I already know this person. But I guess with my 60 seconds, I teach high school. Anyway, one year I invited him to speak to my high school students. So now I'm losing track, but I think it was like 2017, 2018. And I did not know really much about his life, because as a teenager, we don't really think about our parents' lives. They're just here because we think about ourselves, we're teenagers. So when he came to speak to my students who are seniors, that's when I learned a lot about his life, including some of the stuff that was shared here. And then he spent the rest of the day just talking to my classes and hanging out with my students. It was great because they were all like 17 years old. But I remember a few things. And one of the main things that I remember him saying, and one of the kids asked him, he was talking about growing up and there was no food. And one of the kids raised their hands and asked, why don't you just go to the grocery store? And he was like, there was no food at the grocery stores, there were no grocery stores. And I just really thought about, all the things that we take for granted that he overcame. And so that, and him spending a lot of time talking to this one student of mine, and he was just a very curious, and they were talking about math and all that stuff. It was so cool. But that's it. Anyway, thank you.
I wanted to share a story that between me and Klaus. Since this is 60 seconds rule that I set up, so I had to write it down, and so that way so I don't miss anything. Or even more important, I don't talk too much. Okay. Oh, by the way, Charles, you mentioned Jason's Daily.
yes.
Yeah, I've been there many times with Klaus. Our monthly lunch is always there, Jason's Day. All right. Klaus was actually more than my PhD advisor. So over the years, he became my mentor, my colleagues, and truly my dear friend. His influence shaped not only my career, but also the person I became. In 2008, I received a distinguished alumni award from UTD in recognition of my post-graduation achievements. It was a proud moment, and Klaus was there at the gala and smiling, congratulating me and telling me and how pleased he was with what I had accomplished. I thought that was simply that Klaus being so supportive, and as he always was. About 3 years later, by complete chance, I learned something he never told me. Klaus had been the one who nominated me for that award. he never mentioned it. And also not that night, the work night, not afterward. So when I finally asked him why you kept it to yourself, he just gave me that very famous, mysterious smile of him. So that was Klaus, humble, decent, always lifting others quietly, never seeking recognition, never taking credit. And his brilliance was undeniable, but it was his character, his generosity, his integrity that left the deepest mark on me. So this is the Klaus I will always remember, and the Klaus whose spirit stay with me. Thank you.
My name is Chandrasekhar. I want to talk about Klaus's life that other people have not talked about so far. A little bit from Cleveland, a little bit from the School of Management, and an incident that happened when Klaus gave a distinguished talk that is owed to Dr. Balsara. First, Cleveland. Klaus worked with me, supposedly worked with me. On his thesis topic, we both discussed some coincidence between an unsolved problem and a solved problem. That's about all. I said to him, maybe these two things are similar to this change. After that, I didn't hear from him until he presented me the document. So basically, although I'm on paper an advisor, we are both contemporaries, like friends. Klaus came here to UTD before I came here. In fact, he came around the same time as Dr. Perman came here. So in everything, I've been following Klaus. Klaus came to the School of Management at UTD in '73. I came with the help of Klaus in '75. He moved to computer science in '85. I moved to computer science in '99. So there are lots of things. So, but if you go and look in the Google, you will not find any long list of common papers. There's only one paper that is common between the two of us. It was my principle when I was in Cleveland, never to put my name on the student's dissertation. What I found when I came here was that was actually having a negative effect on the students, meaning the professor is ashamed to put his name. Somebody came and told me this. After that, I have been putting my name. There are lots of things that happen in School of Management. People talked about first PhD student. First PhD student under Klaus's direction was done in 1978 in the School of Management. There were two students who graduated at the same time. Young Fasoon, who went to FedEx, and Howard Hamilton, who was in Rockwell College. I think Howard is no more. So this is like '78, okay? So at about the same time, I had a couple of students as well in the School of Management. Both of us were in the School of Management. UTD at that time was quite different from UTD now. Okay, lots of things were not here. We had to do on our own. I think Klaus supervised about 5 or 6 students in the School of Management before moving over to computer science. It is strange for me. I have taught Klaus, one of his brothers, and his daughter. This is really strange for me. Now, the incident that I want to talk about, which is due to Dr. Balsara, the following. Klaus was asked to give a distinguished lecture in the School of Management, in the School of Engineering, on creation and discovery, the difference in mathematics. I was asked to introduce him. So Dr. Balsara apparently told this to our provost, Hobson Wildenthal, saying, Klaus is giving this lecture, is inviting him to join, and his professor is giving the introduction. Hobson didn't know that Klaus and I had connection. He said his professor must be really old. And Dr. Balsar told me that he said he's old, but he's still teaching, and he's teaching here at UT Dallas. So when I met Hobson asked me, Klaus was your student? I said, yes. We didn't know. And then I sent all of this to Klaus in an email. Klaus's reply was, you should have told him that you are younger than me. I'm younger than him by 3 months. That you know these incidents that are not covered by others. Part of his life from Cleveland, part of his life from School of Management. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the tributes. So let's move on and let's welcome again the Professor of Ovidia Desco to the stage.
Well, I'd like to again express our deepest gratitude to everyone that came here. Also like to, again, for the second time today, to put the Dean of the school on the spotlight, Dean Adams. You're going to start to like me even more. I just want to say that Klaus talked to me many times, right, as department head, but he also talked multiple times. I know with our Dean Adams, she's been with us for 6+ years. And I would like to thank Dean Adams for actually taking the time and having all those discussions with Klaus. Sometimes he will come back and tell me, I talked to the Dean and that's what the Dean did. And I know that the Dean has been very busy and continue to be very busy. And Klaus was an emeritus professor at the time. And the fact that she set aside every single time when he was asking, set aside that time, say, yes, Klaus, I'm gonna meet you. Yes, Klaus, I'm gonna hear you. He appreciated, you might not know, and I also appreciated that you made that time. So I wanted to honor that and thank you very much. Now, I would like to also especially thank Klaus family. Now, Klaus might not be with us, he's not with us anymore, but you are continuing to be part of our computer science family. You are always gonna be with us. And something that I was not planning to say. I was writing what I talked about earlier between 9:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. this morning. And I had no plans to talk about German bread and how you bake it and how it looks when you take it out. It just came to my mind and I wrote it. And I'm just saying that I did not coordinate with the family. I had no idea they are going to talk about German bread. And I didn't even have no idea that Klaus liked to bake German bread. In general, that he liked to bake bread. So now, make whatever you want out of this, but for me, this is really like a strange thing. It's like Klaus wanted me to do today to talk about baking bread, and that's it. And with that, thank you again very much. We have some presents for the family here. We have these very nice flowers that we like you to take with you, and we will help you move it. And we have this nice utility blanket and some other gift bags prepared by our amazing staff there at the back. Thank you very much, Norma, and thank you all the staff for putting that together that you will take with you. And I'd like to invite you to move to the other room, which is just across the hall, and there we are gonna have a small reception with food and drinks, and that will conclude the event for today. But thank you very much again for being here.